I'm just wondering, lots of people are very much in favour of the lockdown being eased, getting our economy back on track. But there's also a lot of people who are in favour of that, who are concerned that doing this all in one go, pubs, bars, restaurants, households meeting, hotels, hairdressers, cinemas, all of this stuff reopening at the same time, and doing it on a Saturday in the sunshine might be a bit too much. Do you think the government has actually gone a bit too far, a bit too quickly with too many measures?
I think the government set out clearly at the beginning the 5 tests that had to be met. And it's fantastic that thanks to the hard work of everybody actually in social distancing, staying home and all the rest of it, that we have now reached a point where we can start to ease the lockdown. But also, the Prime Minister was saying it is not gone away. And therefore, all of us need to be very responsible, very vigilant. So whilst the opportunities will be there to get out there, to enjoy the sunshine a bit more, to get back to a bit more normal life, at the same time, we've all got to continue to wash our hands, to stay at least a metre away from other people, and to keep being vigilant. And, I think people get that now. So, yes, there will be some people who are nervous, but I think for a lot of people, the prospect of a haircut and a pint outside in a pub garden is going to be a fantastic one.
I can actually hear people salivating just listening to your words there.
Exactly.
I mean, this is the interesting thing, isn't it? Even though the shops reopened more than a week ago, they've still got footfall, something like less than 40% of what they would normally be expecting. And of course, they've had huge losses over the 3 months of lockdown. The YouGov Snap survey last night after the government's announcements found 47% think that what the government is doing to ease lockdown is about right. 37% say it's going too far. 7% say not far enough. We know there are a lot of people on your Tory backbenches who feel that it's not far enough. But it may well be the case that actually a lot of people want to go out. They're going to go to the pub, go to restaurants, try and book a holiday. But it does appear there are millions of people who really don't feel it's safe to come out of their homes. What should the government do about that?
I think it's totally understandable that a lot of people feel nervous. Every death in this virus has been an absolute tragedy, and a lot of people have lost a loved one or know somebody who's suffered very badly from this. So it's understandable that people feel nervous about it. And what's going to be key to this is the reams of government advice which has been made available to businesses so that they then can be completely clear about how to open safely and to get people back in. So it's going to take a bit of time, I think, for confidence to come back. But once people do venture out into a shop, as I did myself last Saturday, to see the fantastic steps that businesses have taken to keep people safe. They've got hand sanitizer at the tills. They've got perspex screens. Some of the staff have face masks on. They've got new measures in place to even quarantine products if you've got too close to them. So I think businesses are taking it very seriously and people can feel safe.
In terms of the figures we had out from the Office for National Statistics yesterday on the furlough scheme and the help for self-employed people, we are looking at huge sums of money that are going on keeping people in jobs, those job support schemes, nearly 12 million people, a cost so far of more than £30 billion. It's vastly in excess of anything that the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, thought it would be in terms of the number of people and the cost. It's going to change in August. What is your prediction as a former business secretary? What is your prediction? What is your best guess of how many of those jobs actually, once the furlough scheme ends, no longer exist?
I think the support package has been almost unprecedented around the world. So it has been fantastic. Loads of businesses in my patch have told me that without it, they really would have gone to the wall. So it's been incredibly valuable. But it is businesses who are the job creators and the entrepreneurs. And I do think that the Chancellor in his budget, if he is going to do a summer budget, will need to provide the carrot and the stick to get entrepreneurs back up and running, to get them thinking about reopening and easing off that government intervention. Clearly, the economy needs the wealth creators back in it. So we need to be looking at a package of incentives but also some penalties for leaving your staff on furlough for too long when you could actually be up and running with your marketing, with your new investments, with your new product lines, and even with new ways of working. So I think that balance is going to be really important.
And can I ask you also about some of the medical criticism of the decision by the government? We've had not only the former chief scientific advisor, Sir David King, he leads that alternative SAGE committee, which they set up. He said the lockdown easing is extraordinarily risky. We've also had an open letter in the British Medical Journal written by presidents of the Royal Colleges of Surgeons, Nursing, Physicians and GPs, all warning that a second wave is a real risk and substantial challenges remain. Are you at all concerned that, government's got to worry about the economy, but there's a lot of pressure from business and from backbench MPs and the Tory benches to get the economy removing, but that actually the government is taking too big a risk with the nation's health?
It's not about health versus economy. The fact is that if we stay in lockdown, that has big consequences too for people's mental health, for their own livelihoods, and that in itself has a profound effect on some people's health. So it has got to be a balance. And as the Prime Minister said in the Chamber yesterday, everybody needs to remain vigilant. The virus hasn't gone away. We've got the reinfection rate now to a point where we can safely start to reopen things. And I certainly think, as you said yourself, people are so excited about the prospect of the economy reopening, being able to get out and see friends and loved ones again. That actually is important for people's health too. So that balance between all of us staying vigilant, but actually being able to get some semblance of normality back in our lives is a really important balance to strike.
Okay, let's also talk about some other issues. Yesterday was the 4-year anniversary of the vote for Brexit. You were a leading Brexiteer at the time and since, obviously. How confident are you of getting some sort of trade and tariff deal or no tariff deal with the EU? And how crucial do you think it is that we do get that deal?
It's clearly in our interests and their interests that we continue to trade freely and openly as we have done. And so I do believe that the EU, no matter some of the occasional sabre rattling, will want to strike a good deal with the UK. So yes, I remain confident that we'll be able to do that. But at the same time, the advantages for the UK in being able to strike free trade deals with the rest of the world in much faster time than the EU is able to do is going to be a huge benefit to the UK. So I remain very, very positive and optimistic about the prospects for the UK at the end of this year when the withdrawal agreement transition period comes to an end.
Okay, I must also ask you, as a former leader of the House of Commons, the introduction in the Commons of an independent complaints procedure coming in. It's more than 18 months since that independent inquiry by Dame Laura Cox revealed the scale of sexual harassment, bullying and intimidation in Westminster. And Dame Laura Cox has said the vast majority of abuse was targeted at women and called for action to be taken. This was basically nothing happened as a result of that report, partly down to John Bercow, the former Commons Speaker. Do you welcome the decision to have an independent complaints procedure?
Yes, I introduced the independent complaints procedure to Parliament. What this bit of it is the sanctioning body against MPs only. So this is, if you like, the sort of final piece of the jigsaw puzzle that introduces the concept of an independent body that will look at complaints of bullying and sexual harassment against MPs. So the independent complaints procedure is there for all staff, everybody who works or visits the House of Commons or the House of Lords. But this independent panel will just look at MPs who are accused. And what was very important yesterday was that I and a number of other colleagues felt that it could not be right that once that independent panel makes its findings known, that there should then be a debate, even only on process, in the chamber, because a fundamental part of the independent procedure that I introduced was that we would protect the confidentiality of victims. And for those who had been closely involved with it, they felt a debate in the chamber, even if it didn't name them, would inevitably be that member of Parliament being sort of praised by their colleagues and so on and so on. And it would lead to much greater distress for the victim.
So are you glad that your successor, Jacob Rees-Mogg, as leader of the Commons, are you glad he lost that vote to allow MPs to debate?
Yeah, I voted that we should not have a
Okay.
debate. So yes, I think that's the right thing to do. But I also think Jacob's doing the right thing in introducing that independent panel.
Okay, and just finally, and we've got that new speaker obviously in place, Sir Lindsay Hoyle. Do you think the culture of the House of Commons has changed since he's been in the chair, rather than someone who was really your nemesis, wasn't he, John Bercow?
Yeah, I think that the new speaker is doing a fantastic job, but also, of course, Parliament has changed significantly because there's now a strong majority for the government. So when I was leader of the Commons, we were in a hung Parliament, which makes for a very different atmosphere anyway. But equally, Lindsay is a very sort of calm and measured individual, and he likes to ensure that there's a good atmosphere in the chamber,
Yeah,
which I think is really important.
absolutely. Andrea Leadsom, former Business Secretary, thank you very much indeed for joining.